Hey, what's up guys, it's BenBonk, and there's a major problem with the seas. You see, 8 million metric tons of plastic are dumped in the ocean every year, which can be toxic and harmful to marine and human life. But there is hope. Mr. Beast and Mark Rober have created the Team Seas campaign with a plan to raise $30 million by the end of 2021 to remove 30 million pounds of trash from beaches, rivers, and oceans. Now, I'm sure you've heard this before, but I just want to try to do my part by trying to make a game to raise awareness. So that's exactly what I did. First, I needed an idea. I could have just made a simple game about cleaning up trash, but I figured others would potentially create games with that exact same concept. Instead, I thought it would be unique to make a game where you have to find and accuse people who litter. All I really had was this rough idea in mind, so I just got to work. First, I hopped into Illustrator to try to make some art for a dock. I've never made simplistic vector art before, so this would be a bit of a learning experience, but I thought it would be neat to learn. So I just tried my best to figure things out, and I sort of attempted to make the art look like Kurzgesagt? I don't know, help me out my 4% of German viewers. Anyways, after a while, I had this basic dock, which I think looks somewhat decent, and I just imported it into Unity. Next up, I made this telescope view art. I thought it'd be cool if the player would look through a telescope to somehow find people who litter on the dock, and I could just scale up this art to change the zoom of the telescope. I now needed a way to control the telescope, so I wrote these 3 lines of code, which took me almost 3 hours because Unity sucks and the clamping is weird and I'm an idiot. But it works, and here's what that looks like. I also got the clamping working so the telescope wouldn't go out of bounds, and I did some math to get this working when the telescope was at different zoom levels. Now, I just needed a way to be able to change between these zoom levels. So I created some basic functionality for that, and now the player could press space to switch between 3 zoom levels. I also added a blur effect to the telescope to kind of balance it out, so the more you see it, the more blurry the telescope will be, and vice versa. This way, hopefully players would have to switch between these 3 zoom levels to find the litterer. And speaking of litterers, I hopped into Illustrator and I ended up with this totally not creepy ball. Look, I wanted to make humans for the litterers, but I realized that would require me to make animations for them, and I really didn't know how to do that, so I just opted out. But I did make a bunch of different mouths for the balls, so I could do a little bit of random generation. I created this script which would randomly generate a ball with a unique mouth, body color, and eye color, and I got that ball to move randomly across the screen. Now let me get back to explaining my idea for the game. With these randomized balls moving across the screen, I like the idea of having one secretly be a litterer, and the player would have to find and accuse this litterer. I wanted the litterer to drop some kind of trash off the dock when they choose to litter and then leave the dock. And if the player catches the litter before they leaves, they win, and if not, they lose. So with this idea in mind, I got to scripting out the logic for the litterer. I made him randomly spawn and gave him the chance to spawn trash and then leave the dock. But about trash, I figured I might as well get to work creating the trash that the litterer could potentially spawn. Back to Illustrator I was, and I created a few different possible pieces of trash that the litterer could spawn. With those done, I set everything up into Unity, and now the litterer could actually litter. For example, this ball is looking kind of suspicious, and he's just gonna litter and then instantly dip. This is cool, but now the player needed a way to accuse one of the balls on the screen. So now, if the player clicked the ball, a pop-up would appear. If the ball was actually the litterer, the border would be green, and if not, the border would be red. I then just proceeded to set up these win or lose screens with the appropriate information and buttons, and now these pop-ups were much more visually appealing. But at this point, I realized the game needed some more depth and ways to find the litterer. So I came up with a system where the game would display a hint before the level started. This hint could either help with what mouth the litterer has, or a color they contain, either on their body or eyes. This required me to rework how the litterer spawned, and I worked on that, and I also got to work on creating these hints. After creating the hints, here's what this looked like on the screen. And now these hints would actually function in helping the player, as the litterer would have to abide by the hint that they were given at spawn. You'll also notice I made these pretty neat telescope scene transitions and got the score counter working. So now the core game loop was pretty much done, but I just needed a way to make the game's difficulty scale in some way. So I wrote this code which just makes the game a little harder after every correct accusation. And after a bit more tidying up, the gameplay itself was pretty much done. However, the game was really ugly and boring looking. So into the Illustrator I went yet again to make some additional art. And I ended up with this lighthouse, sand, and water sprites. So I just added that to the game, and now things were much more visually appealing in my opinion. I know it's not anything crazy good, and a child could have probably done better, but it was good enough in my opinion. Finally, it's time to wrap up the game. I made this basic start screen, info screen, and tutorial. And with that said, the game was pretty much done. I uploaded it to itch.io, so feel free to check it out. Just know, it's not my proudest work to be honest, and I think I could have made a better gameplay loop, but I just wanted to get this video out. Finally, make sure to check out Team Seas, link in the description. I'll personally be donating all the ad revenue from this video to the campaign, so by watching this video, I guess you're technically somewhat helping to remove trash from the seas. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.